What does it really mean to be free? Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. No rules, no limits, no one telling you no. But the Stoics would laugh at this idea, because what most people call freedom is actually slavery. You can have wealth and still be enslaved to greed. You can have pleasure and still be chained to desire. You can have status and still be a prisoner of other people's opinions. Real freedom isn't out there. It's not in your bank account, your reputation, or your comfort zone. Real freedom is in here, in the mind. And to get it, you have to face truths that most people spend their whole lives running away from. Painful truths, uncomfortable truths, the kind of truths that don't flatter your ego, but instead strip it bare. Truths that cut deep, but also set you free. Because when you finally stop pretending, when you finally see life as it truly is, no one can control you. Not fear, not anger, not loss, not even death. This is why the Stoics taught, if you want freedom, you must train the mind, not the world. And that training begins by facing reality head on. 1. No one owes you anything. One of the hardest truths to accept, and one of the most liberating, is this: no one owes you anything. Not your parents, not your friends, not your partner, not your employer, not the government, not society, not even life itself. And yet, for most of us, there is a subtle belief buried deep in the mind that whispers, I am owed something. We believe we are owed kindness, respect, opportunity, wealth, or, at the very least, fairness. We may not say it outright, but we feel the sting of resentment whenever the world does not deliver. But here is the Stoic truth. Resentment is born from expectation, and expectation is nothing but a contract we signed with reality without reality agreeing to it. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, reminded himself each morning, today I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He did not expect people to act in accordance with his wishes. He expected them to act in accordance with their own nature, and in this he found freedom. Think about it. How often does frustration arise because you think someone should have treated you differently, that they should have understood you better, that they should have given you more recognition, more effort, more care? But where does that should come from? It is nothing but an illusion, a phantom rulebook that only you are holding. The world does not owe you fairness, because fairness itself is a human invention. The world does not owe you love, because love is a gift, not a debt. And the world certainly does not owe you happiness, because happiness is not something that can be handed to you. It is something you cultivate within. This truth can feel harsh, even cruel at first, but it is also the foundation of real strength. Because when you finally release the belief that others owe you, something remarkable happens. You stop waiting, and you start living. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come. You stop waiting for recognition that may never arrive. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to move forward. Instead, you take responsibility for your own path. You learn to give what you seek. You become the source of the respect, the kindness, and the meaning that you once demanded from others. Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, put it sharply. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, and then your life will flow well. When you no longer demand that life bend to your will, you discover a deeper peace, because you realize no one owes you honesty, but you can still choose to live honestly. No one owes you love, but you can still love deeply. No one owes you opportunity, but you can still create your own. This is the paradox of Stoic freedom. When you stop demanding that the world serve you, you are finally free to serve yourself and others from a place of genuine choice, not resentment. Consider the alternative. Imagine living with the constant belief that everyone around you owes you something. Every disappointment becomes a personal insult. Every unmet expectation becomes proof that life is unfair. This is not freedom, it is slavery to bitterness. But imagine the reverse. Imagine living with the radical acceptance that no one owes you, and therefore everything you receive, every act of kindness, every moment of love, every opportunity is a gift. Gratitude flourishes where entitlement dies. When a friend calls, you are grateful, not expectant. When a stranger helps, you are moved, not entitled. When life offers you a chance, you seize it with humility, not demand. This is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about living without chains. Because as long as you believe others owe you something, you will forever be at their mercy. But once you release that illusion, you cannot be controlled by their failures, their moods, or their neglect. No one owes you respect, so give it freely, without keeping score. No one owes you love, so let your love be unconditional. No one owes you fairness, so practice justice within yourself. The world owes you nothing, but in this nothing lies everything. Because once you stop demanding what cannot be demanded, you are free to see life, not as something withheld from you, but as something offered to you moment by moment. And that is the beginning of true freedom. 2. Desire is a trap. The Stoics taught that most human suffering doesn't come from pain, but from desire, not from what we lack, but from our endless craving for more. Desire whispers, "If only you had this, then you would be happy." And so we chase money, success, love, respect, pleasure, status, comfort, and when we get it, for a moment there's relief, but soon the hunger returns, the new thing becomes ordinary, and the cycle begins again. This is the trap. Desire promises freedom but delivers chains, because the more you chase, the more enslaved you become. Seneca put it plainly, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Think about it. A person who has little but desires nothing is free. A person who has everything but desires more is a prisoner. Which one sounds richer to you? The truth is, desire has no finish line. You never arrive. You never reach the place where you can say, "Now I have enough. Now I am satisfied forever." Because the mind, left unchecked, always finds a new target. The promotion leads to wanting the next. The relationship leads to wanting more passion. The wealth leads to wanting luxury. The luxury leads to wanting status. And on it goes. Desire is like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. The Stoics were not against enjoying life's pleasures. They ate, drank, loved, and lived fully. But they warned against dependence, because dependence is slavery. Epictetus said, "Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it." This doesn't mean stripping life of joy. It means reclaiming your power. It means refusing to let your happiness dangle on a string, controlled by external things. When you believe happiness lies in possessions, you hand your freedom over to possessions. When you believe happiness lies in praise, you hand your freedom over to other people's opinions. When you believe happiness lies in pleasure, you hand your freedom over to fleeting sensations. But when you learn to want less, when you learn to enjoy what is already here, you take your freedom back. Ask yourself, what if you could wake up tomorrow and genuinely feel that nothing more is needed, that what you already have is enough? How much lighter would life feel? This is what the Stoics practiced daily. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruler of vast lands and endless wealth, reminded himself, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Even at the peak of worldly power, he knew that desire was endless. And if an emperor, with armies at his command, recognized that satisfaction comes not from acquisition, but from contentment, what excuse do we have? The trap of desire is not just about material wealth, it seeps into every part of life. We crave certainty, but life is uncertain. We crave immortality, but death is inevitable. We crave control, but control is limited. The more we demand what cannot be held, the more we suffer. The way out is not suppression, but redirection. Instead of desiring what is beyond your power, desire virtue, desire wisdom, desire inner strength, because these are the only treasures that cannot be taken from you. The Stoics called this practice negative visualization, imagining life without the things you cling to, without wealth, without health, even without loved ones. Not to fall into despair, but to awaken gratitude and loosen attachment. To remind yourself that happiness does not depend on what you possess, but on how you see. Here is the paradox: when you stop clinging, you can finally enjoy. When you no longer need the wine, you can savor it. When you no longer need praise, you can appreciate it without being owned by it. When you no longer need love to complete you, you can give and receive love freely, without fear. The chains of desire are broken, not by filling them with more, but by stepping outside the game entirely. And here lies the greatest freedom, the freedom of the person who can sit quietly, with nothing but their own mind, and feel whole. So remember, desire is not your friend. It does not want your happiness. It wants to keep you running, forever chasing, forever dissatisfied. True freedom is not in having more, it is in needing less. 3. Emotions can deceive you. The Stoics never said emotions are evil. They did not demand that you become cold, lifeless, or indifferent. What they taught is something far more subtle and far more powerful. Emotions can deceive you. Anger, fear, jealousy, desire, each comes with urgency. They feel true. They feel necessary. But feelings are not facts. They are impulses, surges of energy shaped by instinct, upbringing, and distorted judgments. And if you take them at face value, they will lead you into slavery. Think of anger. In the heat of rage, it feels righteous. It feels justified. You are convinced that striking back, shouting louder, or holding a grudge will give you peace. But once the fire burns out, what remains? Regret, broken trust, wasted energy. The Stoics called anger a form of temporary madness, a fire that consumes the one who holds it. Now think of fear. Fear convinces you that danger is everywhere, even when there is none. It exaggerates threats, shrinks your courage, and chains you to hesitation. Most of what you feared yesterday never came to pass. Yet in the moment, fear feels absolute, or desire. Desire insists that happiness lies just beyond your reach, if only you obtain the next thing. It deceives you into endless chasing. But once gained, the joy fades quickly, and a new craving takes its place. The mind fooled, again and again. The Stoics understood this deception. That is why Epictetus taught, when something happens, the only thing in your power is your opinion about it. The event itself is neutral. It is your judgment, colored by emotion, that makes it seem unbearable or irresistible. This is not to say emotions should be erased. Even Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, felt anger, sorrow, and desire. But he practiced, observing them as a doctor observes a patient, not with blind obedience, but with careful understanding. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. To master your emotions is not to kill them, but to recognize their trickery, to pause before obeying them, to ask, is this true? Is this useful? Does this serve virtue? Or does it only serve impulse? Modern life makes this lesson even more urgent. Our world profits from emotional deception. Advertisers stir your desire. News headlines fuel your outrage. Social media thrives on your envy and fear. Every scroll, every notification is designed to provoke a reaction, and each reaction is a chain, pulling you further from freedom. The Stoic response is simple, though not easy. Step back. Create space between stimulus and response. Let the first surge of feeling wash over you without acting on it. When insulted, resist the reflex to lash back. When afraid, resist the urge to flee before questioning the threat. When tempted, resist the instant grasp for pleasure and ask whether it will enslave you tomorrow. This practice is not suppression, it is clarity. Suppression hides emotions. Clarity examines them. Suppression bottles them up. Clarity disarms them. Imagine carrying a lantern into a dark room. The shadows look terrifying until light reveals what they really are. So it is with emotions. Fear loses power when you examine it. Anger dissolves when you trace its roots. Desire fades when you recognize its emptiness. And here lies the painful but liberating truth. If you live by emotions alone, you are not free. You are a puppet, pulled by strings you cannot see. But when you learn to question, to pause, to guide emotions with reason, you cut the strings. True freedom is not a lack of feeling. It is the ability to feel without being deceived. To feel anger but choose justice. To feel fear but choose courage. To feel desire but choose wisdom. This is the Stoic way, not heartless, but disciplined, not cold but clear, and clarity is freedom. 4. Blame solves nothing. Blame is one of the mind's oldest tricks. Something goes wrong, and immediately the mind seeks a culprit, a person, a system, a circumstance, anything outside of us to pin the fault on. We say, if only they hadn't done this, or if only life were fairer, and for a moment, blaming feels good. It releases the pressure inside us. It makes us feel innocent, even righteous. But the Stoics would call this what it is, an illusion, because no matter how much blame you cast, no matter how clever your arguments, no matter how accurate your accusations, blame changes nothing. It cannot undo the past. It cannot alter the fact of what has already happened. All it can do is keep you chained to bitterness, while your energy drains away. Epictetus, once a slave, could have spent his life cursing his master, cursing his fate, cursing the injustices he endured. Instead, he turned inward. He said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." By refusing to give power to blame, he gave power back to himself. Blame pretends to be strength, but it is weakness. It convinces you that responsibility lies elsewhere, and in doing so, it steals the one tool you truly have, your ability to respond. That is what responsibility means, the ability to respond. When you blame, you hand that ability away. Think of the last time you blamed someone. Did it move you forward? Did it bring resolution? Or did it trap you in a loop of the same story, replaying the same anger, feeling the same victimhood? Blame is not a solution, it is a circle. The Stoics taught that freedom begins the moment you stop saying, "This happened to me," and start saying, "This happened, and now it is mine to deal with. It does not matter whose fault it was. What matters is what you will do now. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced betrayal, war, and constant scheming from those around him. He could have filled his journals with venom against his enemies. Instead, he wrote reminders to himself. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. He knew that indulging in blame only chained him to anger. Refusing blame freed his mind for action. This does not mean injustice should be ignored. It does not mean wrongdoers should not be held accountable. But there is a difference between seeking justice and drowning in blame. Justice is active. Blame is passive. Justice seeks solutions. Blame clings to wounds. Justice is rooted in reason. Blame is fueled by resentment. Blame is also seductive because it flatters the ego. When you blame, you place yourself on higher ground. I am innocent. I am right. The fault lies entirely with them. But reality is rarely so simple. Often, if we are honest, our own choices contributed to the outcome. Or if not, then our reaction to the outcome makes it worse than it needs to be. The Stoic practice, then, is radical self-honesty. Before pointing outward, look inward. Ask what part of this is within my control. What can I do differently next time? What lesson can I take, regardless of fault? In this shift, blame dissolves into responsibility. And responsibility, though heavy, is the weight that builds strength. Imagine two people lose their jobs. The first blames the boss, the economy, unfair co-workers. The second asks, what can I learn here? How can I adapt? Who will suffer longer? Who will rise faster? The one who blames clings to the past. The one who takes responsibility shapes the future. Blame is a prison because it ties your peace of mind to the actions of others. Responsibility is freedom because it returns your peace of mind to your own hands. And here is the most painful truth. Life will not stop giving you reasons to blame. People will wrong you. Systems will fail you. Fate will break your plans. If you let blame rule you, your life will be one long complaint. But if you refuse it, if you choose responsibility instead, nothing can stop you. The Stoics knew that you cannot control the winds. You cannot blame the storm, but you can adjust the sails. So when life disappoints you, remember this: you can waste your breath cursing the waves, or you can set your course and keep moving. Because in the end, blame solves nothing, but responsibility solves everything. 5. People will disappoint you. One of the hardest lessons in life is also one of the simplest. People will disappoint you. Friends will fail to keep promises. Loved ones will misunderstand you. Strangers will treat you unfairly. Even those closest to you, those you trust most, will, at some point, let you down. The Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, "Today I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Why did he write this? Not to grow bitter, but to stay prepared. He expected imperfection, so that when it came, he would not be shocked. Disappointment stings because of expectation. You expect honesty and receive deceit. You expect gratitude and receive indifference. You expect loyalty and receive betrayal. But ask yourself, where did these expectations come from? Did the universe promise you that people will always act as you wish, or did you, silently, demand it of them? The Stoics teach that people act according to their own nature, not according to our desires. Just as fire burns and water wets, human beings follow their impulses, flaws, and limitations. To expect otherwise is like expecting fire not to burn your hand. The fault is not in the fire, it is in your assumption. This is not a call to cynicism, it is a call to clarity. When you accept that people are fallible, disappointment loses its sting. Instead of saying, "They should have done better," you learn to say, "They acted as they could, with the understanding they had." Even you, think honestly, have disappointed others. You have failed, forgotten, or fallen short, not because you wished to harm, but because you are human. Should you then expect that others will always be perfect toward you? By releasing the illusion of perfection in people, you gain something greater: freedom from constant bitterness, freedom from endless blame, freedom to love people as they are, not as you demand them to be. Epictetus said, "When you kiss your child, say to yourself, 'Tomorrow they may die.'" He was not teaching cruelty, he was teaching the art of cherishing without clinging. The same is true with people. When you recognize that disappointment is part of human nature, gratitude grows for the moments when people rise above it. Imagine how much lighter life would feel if you saw every act of kindness not as something owed to you, but as a gift. When a friend remembers your birthday, you are grateful, not resentful of those who forget. When a colleague helps you, you are thankful, not angry at those who remain silent. By expecting less, you receive more joy. This does not mean tolerating abuse or injustice. A Stoic does not allow cruelty to rule unchecked. But even when drawing boundaries, the wise person does so without shock, without self-pity. You enforce justice firmly, but you do not waste energy being astonished that imperfection exists. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you are offended at someone's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. By remembering your own flaws, you soften your judgment of others." This humility transforms disappointment into understanding. The truth is simple, but not easy. People will disappoint you. They will be selfish, forgetful, careless, and sometimes they will hurt you deeply. But if you live expecting the world to hand you perfection, you will suffer twice, once from their actions, and again from your broken expectations. Freedom comes when you accept imperfection as part of the human condition. Then disappointment becomes less of a wound and more of a reminder. We are all learning, we are all flawed, we are all in need of patience. The Stoic path is not to withdraw in bitterness, but to love wisely, to give kindness freely without demanding it back, to forgive without forgetting lessons, to hold people accountable but not be imprisoned by resentment. Yes, people will disappoint you, but if you meet this truth with clarity, humility, and compassion, their failures will no longer steal your peace. Instead, each disappointment becomes a teacher, guiding you toward patience, gratitude, and a love that no expectation can shatter. 6. You are the source of most of your suffering. The world can be harsh. Fate brings loss, pain, and change. But if you look closely, you will see that much of your suffering does not come from the events themselves. It comes from the story you tell about them. The Stoics made this the cornerstone of their philosophy. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of things. A broken cup is just a cup that has broken, yet one person shrugs and replaces it, while another curses their bad luck and feels tormented. The same event, two very different experiences. The difference lies not in reality, but in perception. Think of loss. Someone you love drifts away. One mind accepts the impermanence of all things, feeling sorrow but also gratitude for what was shared. Another mind clings to it should not be this way, multiplying grief with resistance, which suffers more. Or, think of insult. Harsh words are thrown at you. The sound lasts only a moment, the air vibrating then fading. Yet you may replay those words for days, for years, keeping the wound alive by your choice to relive it. In truth, it was not the insult, but your attachment to it that caused the deeper pain. This is the essence of the Stoic teaching. Suffering is often self-inflicted, not because you wish to suffer, but because the mind is quick to misjudge. It declares, this is unbearable, this is unjust, this is ruin, but reality is rarely as absolute as those judgments suggest. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by war, betrayal, and disease, reminded himself, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Notice his last words, you have the power to revoke it. That is the key. Freedom comes when you recognize that your suffering is not inevitable. It is shaped by your interpretation. Of course, this does not mean denying pain. The Stoics never said, do not feel. They said, do not be ruled. Pain will come, your body will ache, your heart will grieve. But the added layer of torment, anger at the pain, resentment at fate, bitterness at others, that is the part you create yourself, and that is the part you can release. Ask yourself, how many times have you suffered more in imagination than in reality? You feared rejection before it happened, replayed conversations that were already over, dreaded outcomes that never came. You carried burdens that existed only in thought. This is the prison of the mind. But if you see it clearly, you can begin to step free. The Stoic practice is to pause when suffering arises and ask, is this the event, or is this my judgment of the event? By making this distinction, you weaken the grip of unnecessary pain. It is not easy. The habit of blaming circumstances runs deep. We say, my boss stresses me out. But is it the boss, or your interpretation of their words? We say, traffic ruined my day. But is it traffic, or your belief that you must not be delayed? We say, they made me angry. But anger is not made, it is chosen. The truth is painful because it leaves no one else to blame. If you are the source of most of your suffering, then you are also responsible for ending it. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also empowering. For if the cause lies within, so does the cure. Epictetus advised his students, when you encounter difficulty, say not, why did this happen to me? But how can I use this? In that question lies the transformation of suffering into growth. The world will not stop bringing challenges. People will betray, accidents will strike, fortune will shift. You cannot escape pain, but you can escape unnecessary suffering by mastering the judgments that intensify it. This is not indifference, it is resilience. It is choosing to suffer no more than reality demands. To feel what must be felt, but not to chain yourself with added misery. Freedom begins here by seeing that your mind is not only the stage of your suffering, but also the stage of your liberation. Yes, the truth is harsh. You are the source of most of your suffering. But hidden in that harshness is hope. Because if suffering is shaped by your mind, then so is peace, and no one can take that power from you.